Welcome. Welcome to this sacred time, this community consecrated by our presence and our commitment. Welcome to this garden of souls, young and old, gay and straight, of different colors, from different places, with a variety of abilities, beliefs, and backgrounds. I'm Vanessa Cowie, and I'm the worship associate today. And I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. When it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, we recognize we have the power to help keep each other safe. We wear masks while in the building and sign in on the clipboards at the end of each seating range in case we have to contact trace. We have done that a few times this season. And please be mindful of the need for full air exchange in the sanctuary after the service if you would move to the social hall for socializing. And if there's a deep joy or concern in your heart that you would like to share within this community this morning, the ushers have paper and pencil, and they'll provide it for you to write your concern, and they'll bring it forward to be included in our cycle of life ritual later in the service. We are excited and glad to share the firsthand experiences and perspectives of various members and friends of UUTC as we enter into our pledge season. Each week, a different member or family speaks from the heart about their connection to UUTC. And today, we welcome the words of Kay Webb and R.K. Young.
Hi, I'm Kay Webb.
And I'm R.K. Young.
We moved to Brevard in 2008.
After a little time to get on our feet, we started visiting UUTC.
And in 2010, we finally joined because Peter Mockridge insisted upon it.
You may have had a similar experience.
Anyway, we started pledging after we joined at a fairly modest level.
But the more involved we became in UUTC, the more we realized how much this community means to us.
And so our giving increased over the years, both in the time we invest and in the financial support that we provide.
It was this congregation that threw us a wedding celebration after it became legal for us to marry in 2013.
And it is this congregation that said welcome and made us feel that we had found a home.
We believe that UUTC has the power to provide both balance and compassion to this community.
And we hope you'll join us in funding the work of this mission. Thank you.
I had the great good fortune to work with today's guest minister before, when I was with the worship committee of the Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist congregation in Dahlonega, Georgia, and Reverend Christina was a divinity student, and I am just delighted to welcome her here today. Reverend Christina Branum-Martin is currently the interim minister at the UU Fellowship of Clemson, South Carolina. She gained insight for parish ministry from her prior work in nonprofit management, hospital chaplaincy, and as a director of religious education. She's an alum of the Candler School of Theology at Emory University. Christina is a seventh-generation Unitarian and was raised at UU in Houston, Texas. She and her husband live in Decatur, Georgia. They have 2 daughters, one of whom is in college. The other one is in elementary school. At home, she finds joy in gardening, cooking, singing loudly in the car. We'll see how loudly you will sing here. And creating art from recycled and found objects. Welcome, Reverend Christina. We're glad to have you. And now we'll take a pause for some beautiful, beautiful music.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at home. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
That one chokes me up a little. Well, it's not yet officially spring, but today's service acknowledges that we don't just flip a page in the calendar and season moves to season immediately. Spring comes gradually, and if we look down the lane, we can see her coming. So we begin with words from Susan Davison Archer. The earth is warming. The bird's song increases, the sweeter breezes brush our cheeks, and the earth holds hope in seeds and buds. Come, let us gather this morning with a joyful noise, with warm hearts and with hopeful spirits, for we are one with the renewal of the earth and blessedly held in the love of one another. We move more deeply into our worship service by lighting the chalice, the flaming chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We light it with words from Maureen Killoran, "Love can transform the world." Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this chalice honor and embody the power and the blessing of the love we need, the love we give, the love we are challenged to remember always and to share. Our opening hymn will be followed by words of wisdom, and our opening hymn is number 61, "Lo, the Earth Awakes Again."
I'm going to share a really great story with you, and there are some really beautiful pictures. If you can't see the screen, you could look at that one, or you could move to the seats in front. What do you think? Can you see the screen up here all right? Or do you want to move? All right. Okay, I have a wonderful story from a book called Miss Rumphius. It is a story written and illustrated by Barbara Cooney. There is a story about lupines. Lupines are pretty purple, blue, and rose-colored flowers. Did you see them on that screen? You see the lupine flowers? So I'm going to be talking about that. They call Miss Rumphius the lupine lady. The lupine lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea, and in between the rocks around her house grow blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The lupine lady now is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know. She is my great aunt, and she told me so. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. From the front stoop, she could see the wharves and the bristling mast of tall ships. And many years after her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship, now he worked in a shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows of ships, for he was an artist. And he painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. And when he was very, very busy, I painted in the clouds. In the evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to the stories of faraway places. When he was finished, Alice would say, "When I grow up, I will too go to faraway places, and when I'm old, I'll live by the sea." "That is all very well," said grandfather, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" asked Alice. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful," said her grandfather. "All right," said Alice, but she did not know yet what that could be. So in the meantime, Alice got up and washed her face and had porridge for breakfast. She went to school and she came home and did her homework, and pretty soon she was grown up. It was then that my great Aunt Alice set out to do the things she told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home. She went to live in a city far away from the sea and the salt air. And there she worked in a library, dusting the books and keeping them from getting mixed up, and helping people find the ones they wanted. Some of the books told her of faraway places. People called her Miss Rumphius now. Sometimes in that snowy place, she went to the conservatory in the middle of the park. When she stepped inside on a wintry day, the warm, moist air wrapped itself around her, and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. "This is almost like a tropical isle," she said, "but not quite." So Miss Rumphius went to a real tropical isle where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets. She walked on long beaches picking up beautiful shells, and one day she met Papa Raja, king of the fishing village. "You must be tired," he said. "Come into my house and rest." So Miss Rumphius went in and met Papa Raja's wife. And Papa Raja fetched a green coconut and cut the top of the coconut off so that she could drink the coconut water inside. And before she left, Papa Raja gave her a beautiful mother-of-pearl shell on which he had painted birds of paradise and the words that said, "You will always remain in my heart." Miss Rumphius said, "You will always remain in mine too." My great Aunt Alice Miss Rumphius climbed tall mountains where snow never melted. She went through jungles and across deserts. She saw lions playing and kangaroos jumping. And everywhere she made friends she would not forget. And finally, she came back to the land of the lotus eaters. And there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. "What a foolish thing to do," she said. "Well, I certainly have seen faraway places. Maybe it is time now for me to find that place by the sea." And it was, and she did. From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumphius watched the sun come up. She watched it cross the sky, sparkle on the water, and see it set in glory in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks that surrounded her house, and she planted a few seeds by the stony ground. Miss Rumphius was pretty happy, almost. "But there is still one more thing I must do," she said. "I have to do something to make the world more beautiful." "But what? This world is pretty nice already," she thought, looking out over the ocean. The next spring, Miss Rumphius was not very well. Her back was bothering her again, and she had to stay in bed most of the time. Those flowers, though, that she had planted the summer before had come up and bloomed in spite of the stony ground. She could see them from her bedroom window. Can you see, if you look at that slide, can you see the flowers coming in through the window? She could see them. They're called lupines. Miss Rumphius said with satisfaction, "I have always loved lupines the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer so that I could have more flowers next year," but she was not able to. After a hard winter, spring came, and by then Miss Rumphius was feeling better. Now she could take walks again, and one afternoon she started up over the hill, where she had not been in a long time. "I don't believe my eyes," she cried when she got to the top, for on the other side of the hill was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupines. It was the wind. The wind carried the seeds from my garden here, and the birds must have helped. It was then that Miss Rumphius had a great idea. She hurried home and got out her seed catalogs, and she sent off for the best lupine seed for 5 large bushels of seeds. And all that summer, Miss Rumphius put in her pocket seeds. And everywhere she went, she put the seeds wherever she was walking. Can you imagine filling your pockets full of seeds and walking through town? She tossed them by the schoolhouse and at the back of the church and along the stone walls. Her back didn't hurt anymore. Guess what they called her now? They called her that crazy old lady. The next spring, though, the lupines were everywhere, and fields and hillsides were covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes. Bright patches lay around the schoolhouse and the back of the church, down the hollows and the stone walls. Miss Rumphius had done the most difficult thing of all. My great Aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white, and every year there are more and more lupines. Now they call her the lupine lady. And sometimes my friends stand outside her gate, curious to see the old lady who planted all the lupines. And she invites them in, and they come slowly. They think that she is the oldest woman in the world. And often she tells stories of far away places. When I grow old, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is very well, little Alice, says my aunt. But there is a third thing you must do. What is that? I ask. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say. But I don't know yet what that can be. Thank you for sharing this story with me. I have an Aunt Kathy who traveled around the world and saw many, many faraway places. She doesn't live by the sea. She didn't plant a lot of flowers, but what she planted in me and in my sister and in my brother was a welcomeness to the world, the big, large world out there. And I am so grateful for her in our life. I have an activity. Would all the children come forward, please? And I'm going to have you help me with something. Okay. So in front of me, and I'm looking for this mic. Okay. Is it on? Is it on? Okay. You probably can see here that there is dirt in my pot. There's dirt in the bowl and a trowel and water and look in the cups. It's not on. Okay, then you push the power button again. And let's see if it comes back on. And look at it. Let's try it now. Hold on for a second. Ah, and now we'll turn it down. The magic of technology. Well, it's good that we wait because now the people at home can hear our story too. So, what we have in front of us is a bowl of dirt and water and seeds, and I want you to help me do a meditation today. First, can we be grateful for the earth? You see this dirt? Anybody want to put their finger in it and feel the earth? Feel the soil? We are grateful for the soil. When it gets underneath my fingernails and I feel the wet soil for planting, I know that spring is here, and I am grateful for the life that it brings forward. And each of you may take a cup. Careful. Oops. Guess what's in the cup? Seeds. Seeds are the promise of future life, and they bring forth all their potential. We are thankful for the seeds because these seeds are literally the food that we eat and the things that we see that are beautiful. And often we'll see packets of seeds in the store, and it's amazing to think that something as small as this, because some of these seeds are cucumber seeds, can make a huge cucumber just from that tiny little bitty seed. Would each of you put your seeds in the blue pot? Great. Yeah, and now take the trowel and we'll mix it around. Usually what we do at this point is we bless the seeds with the wind and the air by pretending to be the wind and blowing on them, but we're not going to do that today during this crazy pandemic. We're going to know that the air we take this to outside will help germinate these seeds. I have water here. Water, we need water for the seeds to grow, right? Okay. Pour a little What's the last thing these seeds need? Sun, yeah. So when we're done with this, we'll take this outside and I'll put it outside and we can leave it here so you can see if the seeds pop up with the sun outside. All right? So we are grateful for earth and seeds and air and water and sun. And I think in about 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to see some green shoots out of this. All right. Thank you for helping me plant some seeds for springtime. And now we'll sing you on your way as Kevin helps us with the chalice.
We pause each week to open our hearts in this cycle of life. Donna Rayburn, thank you, is going to assist me this morning by lighting the candles. Oh, we do share deep joys and sorrows at this time. If you're watching this live online, please share your joys and sorrows in the chat. And although Donna and I can't see the chat, we will light a candle for those. We have sorrow and trouble on our hearts this morning, but we will begin with some joyful thoughts and candles. Joy of family. It's such a great joy, say Cadence and Gus, to have Granny and Grandpa here with us. So there's a candle for that. And another candle for family. Victoria has a joy that her son-in-law, Jeff Sipe, will be performing on Tuesday night at the new Parker Concert Hall at the Brevard Music Center. So that's wonderful to hear. And we have a joy from a visitor. Joy is to be part of worship at UUTC with my sister Carrie and my nephew Roan, she says. That would be the Reverend Christina. We also honor the frontline workers on whom the burdens and risks of this pandemic fall most heavily with a candle of gratitude. We light a candle of healing for all those who are enduring loss of loved ones, of health, of peace of mind. And with a heavy heart, we light a candle for leaders and ordinary people across the world who are working to further a vision of peace and justice for all in the face of war. And particularly, we have in our hearts this morning Ukraine. And with the light of this next candle, we hold those suffering from violence and injustice anywhere in the world, and particularly in Ukraine. This candle. We light a candle for the quiet joy of being able to gather this morning in the presence of loving friends. And we light a candle for those milestones shared in the online chat. And we light a final candle for all the joys, sorrows, and trouble and milestones that remain unspoken at this time. Let us pause for a moment of silence to reflect on all the joys and sorrows in our hearts. support the mission of this church by your time, by lending your time, your presence this morning, for example, your talent. John Austin is a fine example. And your trust, as our minister, the Reverend Bob Rangelian, likes to add. But not least, you support UUTC with your treasure, your financial contributions. Whether you share your abundance by dropping a check or cash into the offering baskets that will be passed shortly, or by going online and donating with a mouse click, you support this community and our larger community. Our charitable giving partner for March is SAFE, an organization dedicated to giving support, safety, and hope to those who experience domestic and sexual violence in Transylvania County. John has asked me to say that the offertory music today will be Prelude in C minor by Frédéric Chopin, played to honor the tragic situation in Ukraine. Please know that your gifts are received with deep gratitude. And now we welcome our guest minister.
It is good to be with you this morning. I preached here for the first time, I think about 6 years ago, when you had an interim, 5 or 6 years ago. And it is good to be in this space. It was springtime then, and I remember daffodils and forsythia on the pulpit. And so how nice it is to be back here again. Thank you for having me. Almost 30 years ago, I was traveling to visit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico for the first time. I was going for a short beach vacation with friends. We had plans to drive inward into the jungle to visit the Mayan ruins of the city of Chichen Itza. We had arranged to rent a car. And when it arrived at our hotel, in the busy, busy week of lots of travelers, we saw that it was a pretty old, dented, bright orange Volkswagen Bug. It had no air conditioning. It used a cranky stick shift, And unfortunately, we found out that it didn't have much of its shocks left either. So we went on our trip anyway because we were determined. And on this hot and sunny day, we left the coast and we drove towards the cool shade of the jungle. Off on our adventures we went. After a long and bumpy 3.5 hours, we finally arrived at the wondrous place, Chichen Itza. Out of the jungle shone the brightly colored and excavated and cleared 4 square mile area of many connected stone structures. Chichen Itza was thought to have been the religious and military and political and commercial center of this area, and at its peak, this 4 square mile area would have housed supposedly 35,000 people. That's dense. It is understood from the Mayan calendars that it was founded in the 6th century. And those who lived in the region were soon overcome by the Toltecs, and the Toltecs then took power of the area. They added to the city a great pyramid, which you'll see on the screen. And this great pyramid rose high in the middle of the main plaza. This was the structure that is the highlight we came to see. We took some time to climb up the steep steps, which you'll see, and we marveled at the top from the view. We learned that this pyramid had 4 sides, each with 91 stair steps, facing a cardinal direction, including the step on the top platform, and these combine for a total of 365 steps. The number of days in the solar year, and during the spring and the autumn equinoxes, the shadows cast by the setting sun give the appearance of a snake undulating down the stairways. I found this amazing. Can you see the snake head at the bottom and the shape of the snake going up to the top? On our trip, I was fascinated by the mathematical and engineering marvel of this ancient pyramid. It captures that fleeting moment in which the plane of the Earth's equator passes through the center of the sun's disk, and the length of the day and night are equal all over the earth. And this is captured by that pyramid with such a vision of simplicity and beauty. I was not there on the equinox at that time. I was there on a hot, sunny June day. But I have on my bucket list to go back one time in the equinox. Maybe I will one day, like Miss Rumphius, traveling around the world. This month, the equinox is approaching. It will be on March 20th. Reverend Thomas Rhodes reflects on the equinox that it invites us to let the moment of balance and proportion, spark meaning as revelation and epiphany. And he suggests that in that moment, we can let new consciousness arise, that within our hearts, the great rhythm of our life can shift, and that a new way of being can reveal itself for this one precious instant. The nexus of our body and the seat of our soul can truly exist as one. Wow. I appreciate this invitation to be mindful of proportion and balance and revelation and epiphany. For it is in these times, these rare and precious times, that I am invited to be mindful and reflective of my own life and my relationship to nature and the world around me. He continues, the equinox shall pass, and the revelation may be forgotten, and our actions will not always reflect our true selves. But through our gratitude, we may remember who we are, reflect on who we become, and restore the balance which brings equanimity to our lives. In 2020, the equinox arrived a little earlier than usual. And because of the peculiarities of the calendar, it was the earliest arrival of spring equinox in 124 years. But decades from now, that equinox will be best remembered as the time when much of the world had just started hunkering down against the COVID-19 pandemic, March 2020. Writer Ashley Strickland says, for millennia, humankind has tracked the sun and the seasons and celebrated the promise of renewal and rebirth by joining together outdoors. But not that year. In 2020, we were compelled to do the opposite. We were called to retreat indoors and remain in isolation to slow the march of the coronavirus. And we have been in stages of retreat ever since. So now it's 2022 in the month of March. Spring has arrived, and there's a sense, a hope, the presence of perhaps some return to normalcy. But really, we must ask, what is normal now? Yes, the CDC has said that some areas of the country can take their masks off, and those who have access to vaccination seem to have done so, although many have chosen not to avail themselves to this opportunity. Our children at school are seeming to be healthy within the systems put in place to keep them safe. Rebirth is all around us. Spring returns hopeful as always. So that question of what is normal now is really a question of what do we want to go back to? It's really a question of what are we committed to at this point as we move forward? And as Reverend Rhodes invites us to reflect each year, it's a question now. This new normal is a question for us to ask, who are we and who do we want to become together in community? I appreciate the story about the little girl who asked long and hard about how should we choose to make the world a more beautiful place. And what I appreciate is that it took her a lifetime to answer that. We don't have the answers now of what this new normal will look like. But as we move through the days, if we can keep in the forefront of our minds, who are we? Who are we to become together? And to continue to ask, what is it that we are committed to? Like Ms. Rumphius, I want to bring the world more beauty. I also want to bring it more love and more compassion, and I want to bring more justice. I want to contribute to the world through my commitment to myself and to my others, and I will choose to bless the world. And I imagine it will take me a lifetime to figure out how to do that. There is a reading called Choose to Bless the World by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. She's a Unitarian Universalist minister and also the prior director of the Star King of Ministry. She writes a beautiful, beautiful saying, and I will repeat just a few lines of it, and in a little bit we will show a video of the whole reading. It starts, "Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. Your mind's power, the strength of your hands, the reaches of your heart, the gift of speaking and listening and imagining and seeing and waiting, any of these can be used to feed the hungry, to bind up wounds, to welcome the stranger, to praise what is sacred, to do the work of justice or offer love. And any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must ask yourself this question: what will you do with your gifts? I hold that we choose to bless the world. Often when I read the whole reading, which we'll hear momentarily, I am moved to tears. It compels me to remember that invitation from Reverend Rhodes to let the significance of the equinox, a day of balance and proportion, invite me to revelation and epiphany, to ask myself, what do I want for the year to come? I want to be moved to bless the world with my life. I want to let a new consciousness arise in me, that within my heart the great rhythm of my life can shift and reveal itself. And like the splendor of that snake on the edge of the pyramid of Chichen Itza that is revealed each spring at the equinox, I will let a new way of being reveal itself, to bring more beauty into the world, more love, more understanding, and more justice. What is being revealed to you? How do you choose to bless this world? As we close, may we choose to bless the world with our hands, our actions, our lives. May we together in religious community support each other on that daily endeavor to bring about our visions of the world, for beauty, for love, for compassion, and justice. Amen, and may it be so.
Choose to Bless the World by Reverend Rebecca Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with an intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting, that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting.
Or the fire of commitment, these we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for having me, and John will bless us with our closing music.